Good morning, beloveds. It's raining. A lot. Like it rained all day on Tuesday, and then yesterday it rained in the morning. And then today we did the alarm thing again where we set the 6:30 alarm and the 8 o'clock alarm. And I never even heard I don't even think my alarm went off. I think Tom's alarm goes off a little bit before mine, and I don't always hear his. And he came in at 6:30 and said, "It's pouring." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "I'm going." And so he turned my alarm off and we both went back to bed. So, and then it was still pouring at 8 o'clock when that alarm went off. So, and it's dark today. Like yesterday it wasn't dark. It was at least mostly light when we got up. And yeah, no, it's dark today. Like I cannot even get going this morning. So I'm just like, well, so this was a good week to get that huge order at work. So, okay. We have a simple title today. It is October 5th. Our title is Faith, and our author is Alice R. Ritchie, and this was published in the Divine Science Monthly in October of 1933. Okay. Faith. I equate myself with God and am at peace. Fear is a mental warfare. We find our peace only when we find God. If we have not the faith that wins, the faith that demonstrates, it is because we are not well enough acquainted with God and God's peace. When we really know God and are convinced of its omnipresence, then we have an unshakable faith. We cannot help having faith that is the very substance of the things we hope for and the evidence of things not yet seen. When we are so well acquainted with God that we know God's reality, God's omnipresence, and God's changelessness. Other people will try so hard to get more faith, and others seem to think that in some mystical way faith will come to them. Some are envious of another's faith, and then conclude that one is either born with faith or without it. I believe that everyone has faith, and they put it into that with which they are best acquainted. Evil, if they know more of evil, God the good, if they know more of the realities of life. We acquaint ourselves with God by giving our attention to the things of spirit, in our reading and studying, our meditation and silence, our constant mental attitude, and our conversations. Study Job 22:21 through 30 and Hebrews 11. I mean, she gives you a homework assignment right there at the end. Right? Alice. Okay. So I'm going to go back to one of her paragraphs in just a minute. But I think we are born with a seed of faith because of what we are. Because we are made from God. That is the source of everything. That's our contention, right? If everything is made from God, then we have to be born with a seed of faith. I believe it is up to us to grow that faith. So what she was saying is that, some people conclude that you're either born with it or not. No. I think that everybody's born with a seed of faith. But it is up to us to nurture that faith. It is up to us to feed and water that faith. And part of it is, she didn't say it as explicitly as I'm about to, is paying attention. She calls it the realities of life. Emerson would tell you to look around at nature. So would Walden, Henry David Thoreau. It's like, pay attention to nature. When you look at the abundance of nature, how nature doesn't stint on anything, then you're like, oh. And that's one of the ways to nurture your faith, actually, is to go out and be in nature. that's one of the reasons why I like to go to the park. I like to go to the park and do that. So yeah, it's fantastic and wonderful and beautiful ways to grow your faith. Finding a community is another way to nurture your faith, to grow your faith. Finding people that understand what you're trying to do. Not necessarily what you're doing, but what you're trying, not the way you're doing it, but what you're trying to do. That you're trying to that you are nurturing your faith. So finding a community that understands, it's like, look, I'm exploring the God of my understanding. And finding that community, that's what creative life provides for me, is it's that community. They may not understand me completely, but they get what I'm trying to do. And there are, like, in creative life, we're all students, and yet we recognize that we're all teachers. And there are a variety of ways to do teaching. Like, Jesse is beautiful at the lectures. Like, if you listen to him on a Sunday, or if you take one of his classes, but then there are other teachers that live their life. And then you look at them and you go, Ruth, it was a beautiful example of living faith. She didn't teach a whole lot of classes. She taught some classes. She didn't teach a whole lot of classes, but she lived her life. And so she's that living example. So, and that's that I aspire to be that kind of that living example. It's like, even when things are, then I'm going to live my faith. I'm going to go to the God of my understanding. I'm going to live my faith. So, okay. So now let me go back, and because now I want to go back and read the two Bible passages that she suggested. Okay, so let me go back. We cannot help but having faith, that is the very best substance of things we hope for, because we're made from that source we are made from the source of that faith. So that is the faith that we are nurturing. The seed, we couldn't have asked for a better seed. So it's up to us to manage the soil that seed is growing in. All right. Where was it? Then she goes into that whole, we acquaint ourselves with God by giving our attention to the things of spirit in our readings and studying, our meditation and silence, our constant mental attitude, and our conversation. Okay? Right there. We nurture our faith, or we damage our faith by what we read, by what we study, by the quality of our meditations, and in our silences. It's like when you're in the silence, then that's when you can listen to the voices, and it's like, that honestly, the voices in my head are what sent me into therapy one time, because I was like, I heard the way I was talking to myself, and I was like, this is not okay. This is not okay. So, and then our constant mental attitude. Again, one time, the voices in my head are what sent me into therapy, and I was like, nope. So when we notice that, because if we're feeding the fear, then we are damaging our faith. And so that's what we want to be aware of. We want to pay attention. Consciousness. That's a drumbeat for Science of Mind, but it's a drumbeat for New Thought. Consciousness. All right. So what are we being conscious of? So, and conversations. Okay. It's one of those, we all have them in our lives, the doomsayers, the people who are going to focus on the negative. And I'm just like, so I minimize the topics of conversation with them. It's like, I know that if we get on this topic, then you're going to be like super negative. And I'm like, we're not going to have that conversation. We're going to focus on these other things. So it's not that I'm going to avoid you. It's just, there are certain topics that I am not going to have that conversation with you. So, and it's for my own mental health that I do that. And to some degree, I just, do that. I do that. And that's when you do meditations, there are so many different kinds of meditations. So if you sitting in silence is not a good meditation for you, then look for the what are they? The guided meditations or the music meditations, or I like to do moving meditations with music. So, look for those kind of things. Figure out what feeds your faith the best and do more of that. And when you come across the things that do not feed your faith, that actively are against your faith, then do what you need to do to minimize them in your life. I mean, there are going to be people in your life that you can't. I get that. But you can manage the conversations that you have with them. So, I'm going to remind you that I don't have to give you a mission today. She gave you one. Study the mission today should we choose to accept it. Now, Job is kind of hard to read. I will grant you, Job is kind of hard to read. But she suggests Job chapter 22, lines 21 through 30, and then Hebrews 11. So I'd be curious to know what those are. But the mission today, should we choose to accept it, is, as she says, to acquaint ourselves with God. To acquaint ourselves with God. And she gave you a whole list of ways to do that, including reading the Bible. So she gave you 2 very specific chapters. And then Emerson says, go out in nature, because that's a good way to acquaint yourself with God, especially if you want to acquaint yourself with the abundance of God. And then go find your tribe. So if the mission today is to acquaint yourself with God, she gave you a bunch of beautiful ways to do it. Okay, that's Alice Ritchie, Alice R. Ritchie. I commend her to you. And then I'm going to remind you that the other mission that I give you is the same mission I give you every day. It is the spiritual practice of self-care. Do something loving for yourself. Do something kind for yourself. Do something compassionate for yourself. Whatever that looks like, big or small, doesn't matter. Point is to practice on yourself. All right. You can't pour from an empty cup. If you're going to live a life of service, then you have to take care of yourself. It can be as simple as taking a deep breath before you speak, especially to yourself. But like if you're going to have a conversation with somebody, especially somebody who doesn't think the way you do, then take that deep breath and consider the topic that you're about to discuss and how you want to do that. Or if you want to do that, and then maybe you change your topic. It also looks like taking a walk, taking a nap, taking a break. It looks like saying no to things that just really drain you. It looks like saying yes to things that push you just a little bit out of your comfort zone. It looks like remembering that no is a complete sentence. It looks like taking the accommodations. Okay? It looks like eating dessert first, which means 2 things. One, I do legit mean that. I believe that chocolate is the first step to fixing anything. But I will also remind you that it means don't save the good stuff. Our life is a special occasion. We can treat it as such. We can go out of our way to make the ordinary extraordinary a little more often. What do I mean by that? Wear the fancy clothes more often. Use all that fancy dishware, glassware, silverware more often. Don't save them for that one time. Burn that fancy candle. Don't wait until it's dusty and sticky and doesn't smell the way it did when you bought it. Don't save the good stuff. All right. I also want to remind you that joy is a quality of God. Okay. If joy is a quality of God and you are made of God, then joy is a quality of you. No matter what is going on in the world, no matter what is going on in your life, you deserve joy. Please make room for joy. All right. Doesn't matter what's going on. Just make room for joy. Okay. And then I'm going to remind you, you are your own best test subject. That's part of the reason why I encourage you to practice on yourself. You are your own best test subject. I'm also encouraging you to create a habit. I would like to encourage you to, so that everything you do is loving, kind, and compassionate for yourself and others. So that It's all loving, kind, and compassionate. If we want to make a world that works for everybody, we start by working on ourselves. And if we can respond lovingly, kindly, and compassionately to absolutely every situation, then we're well on our way to making that world that works for everybody. If we practice on ourselves, then we are creating a well-worn path to the source of our own being, which is what she's talking about. Well, the source of our own being is a source of infinite love, infinite kindness, infinite compassion. You create that well-worn path, and your first response is loving, kind, and compassionate. You're golden. You know, you will never run out of love, kindness, and compassion because you're connected to the infinite source. Practice on yourself. And the most important reason to do this is because you deserve your own love. You deserve your own kindness. You deserve your own compassion. There are times when I will remind you, it's easy to practice love, kindness, and compassion on people that we love. It's sometimes easy to practice it on people that we don't know. It's practicing it on ourselves and practicing it on people that we don't exactly get along with. That's where the real work comes in. Practice on yourself. All right. It's a little bit like being on an airplane. When the oxygen mask drops, you put your own oxygen mask on first, then you help your neighbor. Okay. Like I said, you can't pour from an empty cup. So make sure you're refilling that cup on a regular basis. All right. The rest of the suggestions are basic self-care. Do something to engage your mind and your body. Whatever that looks like for you today. For me today, it was 1, go back to bed, and 2, stretch. I'm not going to get out in the rain. So stretching is on the menu today. Please drink plenty of water. Hydration is super important, especially in this kind of weather. The earth is getting hydrated. We need to get hydrated. Your brain works better. Your body works better. Your skin looks better when you are well hydrated. So drink plenty of water. And get that early in your day bright light. Like I said, I'm struggling to get going because it's dark and raining. And I am thrilled for the rain, and it can stay dark and rainy all day as far as I'm concerned, because I do have bright light. This actually is the brightest light in my house. So that in my kitchen. And I was only in the kitchen briefly, so this is helping a whole lot. I'm getting that bright light on my face. It is helping to reset those hormones, and I'm far more awake now than when I came in here. Bright light works. So it's 5 to 10 minutes of bright light. And if, like on dark days like this, or as we move into the winter, you can Google seasonal effect disorder lamps. At this point, I think you can just purchase a light bulb, and it will help. It's the kind of light that you need to help stimulate those hormones. So if you need that extra assistance, please do that. You know, I'm not getting paid by them. I just believe it and know it works. So, all right. And I'm at my Ernest Holmes quote. Open the windows of your soul. Allow the breath of heaven to remind you do live in heaven right here, right now. It's all around us all the time. All right. That is what Alice is talking about. If we're going to acquaint ourselves with God, it's all God. Okay. So what Ernest is reminding us is that heaven is a state of mind. It is a state of consciousness. It is not a place that we have to get to. But once we learn to create that state of mind, once we learn to create that consciousness, heaven can become any place. That one state of grace, because you are born, you come pre-installed with the Christ consciousness. The password to access that is love. So, but the other part is, and I just lost my train of thought. Okay. State of mind. Oh, super. I was talking about it being a superpower. It's a state of grace. It's a superpower. When you learn to create that state of mind, that state of heaven, that heavenly consciousness, that heavenly state of mind, then you become an island of peace. You become an island of calm. And when you meet people in their storms, you don't get drawn into their storms. You can pull them into your peace. You can give them a place to rest. They cease to have the power to disrupt your calm. So, and Emma Curtis Hopkins gives you the best advice. Look for the good and praise it. Count your blessings. when you start to count them, you start to notice more. You start to see all of the good that is in your life, and you stop focusing on the negative. And that is what Alice was talking about today. If we're going to acquaint ourselves with God, we want to count our blessings. We want to see all of the good in our lives and take our focus away from the fear. We want to stop feeding the fear and all of that. Acquaint ourselves with God. So that's what Emma's talking about. Look for the good and praise it. Acquaint yourself with your God. Okay? So, and science says, if you wake up grumpy, then go do something for somebody else. Random act of kindness, volunteer, whatever. It will help to change your mood. I mean, it's science. You can look it up. All right. I think I'm leaping forward into, we are Creative Life Spiritual Center. We are Creative Life Spark. I'm the Running River Ryan on the social medias that I am on. I encourage you to go and like and share and subscribe and do all of that. There are hours of content. That's what Alice was talking about. It's like, reading and meditating and all of that. Well, there are hours of content on both of those channels to help you do that. And then, you might leap off into all kinds of other suggested from those two. YouTube's really good about that. They'll suggest it because trust me, pretty much all of the CSLs have YouTube channels now, so you can go and find anybody and get what you need. So, all right. Oh, info, if you want to know what's going on with the center, email info@creativelife.org. That'll get you on the constant contact. The hot links are hot. If it says click here now, it'll take you right to the information you want, or to the person that can help you get it. Okay, I'm at the part where I get to encourage you to have a great day, a wondrous day, a fantastic day, a magical day, an enchanted day, a wonderful day, an awesome day, an amazing day, a go dance in the rain day, a hydrate day, a get to know God day, a check out the Bible chapters day, did I say acquaint yourself with God? A check out a new meditation day, a practice the silence day, a connect with your source day, a good day. And if that is too much pressure, simply have a day. You are enough just as you are. You are a beloved child of God. You are a brilliant light. You are a divine spark. You are spirit in motion. You are God in action. Or as Reverend Jesse likes to call us, you're a godling. Explore the truth of your being. Peel back the layers of who you have been told you are. Let go of what society and culture and religion and gender and all of those boxes and what people who love you and what people who don't know you have told you that you are. Peel all of that off and get to know who God knows you to be. Because I can promise you, that person is good. That person is cool. So, explore the truth of your being. All right? Okay. I am going to move into the process of my day. So I'm going to remind you, Reverend David should be on around 5 p.m. with you. I'll be back with you around 9 a.m. tomorrow. Take care of yourself. Know that you are loved. And I will see you next time.